And I don't know if Dan Brown ever heard of the Protestant Reformation, because he just acts like all Christians are Roman Catholics. I don't know. He doesn't know much about history. He certainly doesn't know much about theology either. I don't mean that. I'm not trying to be mean. I'm just telling you Dan Brown has some problems in this area. But whatever the case, there's a Robert Langdon. These are the three key characters. He's supposed to be a Harvard religion professor. Lee Teabing, supposed to be an expert on the Holy Grail. There's a good way to make a living. Be an expert on something that probably doesn't exist. And then Sophie Nauvoo, whose name means new wisdom. And then she ends up finding the truth in herself, literally running through her veins. And so, you know, what Dan Brown is trying to teach. He wants people to find the Sophie Nauvoo, the new wisdom, the new spirituality, the neo-spirituality, basically a New Age version of Christianity. And lo and behold, in this new wisdom, where do you find the truth? You find it within yourself. You don't have to look to God, the God above. You can look within yourself, and the truth is there. Okay? Brown, in this book, is promoting what I would call a neo-Gnosticism. Well, he's got a kind of smorgasbord idea. I don't think he realizes it, but he takes sometimes mutually exclusive religions that contradict each other, pagan religions, and he tries to blend them all into one, okay? But neo-Gnosticism, Gnosticism comes from the Greek word gnosis, which means knowledge, and they were people who believed that they was a heretical offshoot of Christianity, and they believed in salvation. They made Jesus kind of like a guru-type character, okay? And that salvation was through secret knowledge, okay? And by the way, the Gnostics, Brown doesn't know this, the Gnostics denied Jesus' humanity. They saw him as some type of a divine being. They didn't have a problem with that, but they denied that he really became human. He only appeared to become human. The whole physical realm is evil according to the Gnostics, yet Brown elevates the physical realm. So, I mean, it's hard to say what's going on there in Brown's head, but he's a neo-Gnostic, a new form of Gnostic. So he wants a new type of Christianity, which would be kind of a New Age version of Christianity rather than true biblical Christianity. And that's driving his way of thinking. Feminism is also on the top of the scale. So I guess, you know, the equal rights movement for women was originally founded by Christians. But eventually it got hijacked, and I'm not exaggerating the state. If you just do some study on some of the leading women's libbers, okay, like Mary Shelley is typical of the women's lib movement, and she's a theology teacher at a Catholic university, Boston College, okay. She's a former nun, but currently she is a witch. I'm not calling her name. She's a witch. She's proud of it. She's a Wiccan. She's a feminist, and she's a lesbian. Okay, and so the women's rights movement has been hijacked by feminists, by witches, by lesbians, and but I guess Brown supports it too. So I guess when these radical feminists blame men for all the problems that the world's ever had, you know, if men weren't leading, there wouldn't be wars anymore, and there'd be a perfect age of peace, or whatever. Who knows? And I guess Brown agrees with that, so I don't know. It's kind of, you can look at his picture in the back of the book. He looks like a real mellow guy, so whatever, I don't know. Whatever the case, he holds to the new morality, okay? Too often, I'm going to be giving, one of my talks is going to be refuting the moral relativism and the new tolerance and all. And at the same time, it's kind of, this country, we started with God's moral absolutes. God's absolutes. Then we reached a stage where we started, our leaders and the professors in the universities began to say, there are no absolutes, okay? What's right for you is right for you, doesn't have to be right for me, and vice versa. So somebody found out Fernandes is a Christian. They say, hey, Phil, that's good for you. I'm happy for you that Christianity makes you happy, but it's not good for me, okay? What's good for you is good for you. What's right for you is right for you. Doesn't have to be right for me. That's moral relativism, no absolutes. We're not there anymore, okay? We need to still respond to it because there's still a few moral relativists out there. But in reality, we're now at the new absolute stage, where all of a sudden there are certain things that are absolutely right, universally wrong for all people at all time and in all places, but it's not God's absolutes anymore. So it's Isaiah 5:20. What are those who call evil good and good evil? So all of a sudden, homosexuality is a very healthy, wholesome lifestyle. And they're some of the most productive members of our community, CNN would like us to believe. And forbid the idea that some wife would speak at an Ivy League school and talk about the joys of being married to a husband. How offensive that is, you know? I mean, so in the days of the new morality, we're living in a day and age where the Supreme Court or the federal courts view the Ten Commandments as something that's offensive to people and cannot be publicly displayed, and then the same federal courts turn around and homosexuality is somehow protected by the Constitution when the word sex isn't even mentioned in the Constitution. So Brown has this politically correct new morality agenda. William Watkins wrote an excellent book on the new morality, where each chapter he takes an old moral law from God's word that our country lived by, and then he gives the new moral law that replaced it, okay? And then the new tolerance. The old tolerance used to be freedom of religion and freedom of speech, which meant, okay, that my neighbor could be a Muslim. He has the freedom of religion and freedom of speech so that he could say, Fernandes, you're going to hell if you don't become a Muslim. He's got that freedom, and I've got the freedom to say, you're going to hell if you don't accept Jesus. That's what freedom of religion and freedom of speech are all about, okay? Now, hear me out on this. Bill O'Reilly, this is getting so bad, it's not just the Democrats that are doing this. We even have a few. It's a cancer that's spreading from the Democratic Party. It's now starting to come into guys that we think of as quote-unquote conservative. Bill O'Reilly, I was listening to him on the radio the other night, and he was talking about, he's Roman Catholic, he's upset with this new pope, and he said, and the reason being is because the pope's not persuasive enough. He says, let me give you an example. If somebody tells me that if I don't convert to their religion, I'm going to hell, that's chaos. That's what Bill O'Reilly called it, chaos. I listened to the radio. I said, no, Bill, that's called freedom of religion. Bill O'Reilly also, he interviewed, I can't remember if it was Jerry Falwell or if it was the president of the Southern Baptist Convention, because the guy said salvation is only through Jesus. Jesus is the only way to be saved. He turned around and said, don't you see what you're saying there puts you in the same category as Osama bin Laden? See, what we have a problem here. We have a disconnect where there's so much of an emphasis on this new tolerance that we forget the problem with Osama bin Laden. He has several problems. One, he's married to more than one woman, okay? And I'm talking even totally apart from the fact that he's in a false religion. Just from a moral standpoint, he's married to more than one woman, okay? And then he likes to kill innocent women and children. Now, when people who are supposed to be conservatives tell people like Jerry Falwell and the president of the Southern Baptist Convention, you Christians are a lot like Osama bin Laden because your salvation is only through Jesus, they're totally missing the boat. Freedom, the traditional tolerance said, I have the freedom of religion and freedom of speech to believe that only people in my religion or only people who trust in Jesus alone for salvation are going to be saved. And I've got the freedom to believe it and the freedom to proclaim it. I don't have the freedom to beat up my neighbor because he's not a Christian, but I have the freedom to plead with him to accept Christ, because if he doesn't, he's lost. I've got the freedom to believe that and to proclaim it.